All right, Mr. Ahmed here. We're going to start up our Chapter 8 notes here. It does say that it's currently Chapter 7 based off of our note packet. However, it does correlate with Chapter 8 in our textbook, so we're going to change this 7.1 to an 8.1 for ratios and proportions. Our essential question is, how do we solve proportions and set up ratios? So how do we solve a proportion and set up a ratio? A ratio is a comparison of two or more quantities using division. It can be represented a couple different ways. We can use a colon in between the two. It's read A to B, A over B, or we could also just say A to B. So we're just going to set up a couple ratios first, and the first problem says the length of a rectangle is 8 inches and its width is 5 inches. What is the ratio of the length to the width? So we need to put the length first. Since our length was 8, we'd say it is 8 to the width of 5. And then for the second part, it just wants us to write it the other way and say what is the ratio of the width to the length. So I'd need to switch the order and say that that would be 5 to 8. Okay? Our next one, number 2, says, in 2015, the Minnesota Twins baseball team won 83 out of 162 games played. Write a ratio for the number of games won to the number of games lost. So the first thing is we have to figure out how many they lost. They played a total of 162 and won 83, so we'd have to figure out loss by taking 162 minus 83, and that is 79. So they lost 79 games and they won 83. We're looking for the ratio of the games won to lost, so 1 needs to come first. So we'd say that's 83 to 79. I could also write that as 83 over 79. So you can use a fraction too. The next one, we're going to have to skip. We don't have the class data for our eye colors. So we are going to scroll over that and move on to the next page. All right, an extended ratio compares 3 or more quantities. So in this case, it says A to B to C. And we're going to see some problems like this in regards to triangles, as well as we might see something with a trapezoid and its perimeter, numerous different things. So the first one says the ratios of the angles of a triangle is 2 to 3 to 4. Find the measures of the angles. So the key here is we have to remember how many degrees the angles of a triangle have to add up to, and that's 180. Now, since it's 2 to 3 to 4, all of these are unknown. So one of the angles, angle J in this case, which was first, is 2. So I'm going to call that 2 times x because it's an unknown value, 2 times something. And then H is 3x and K is 4x. The problem wants us to find the measure of each angle. For us to do that, first we have to solve for x. So each of the angles, 2x plus 3x plus 4x, has to equal 180. And I came up with these values based off the ratio given. 2 times x, 3 times x, 4 times x. Then we would solve this when we add the two together, or like terms. 9x equals 180, and x is equal to 20. Key here, it says to find the angles, not x. I need to put x back in. So angle J, 2 times 20 is 40 degrees. Measure angle H is 3 times 20, which is 60 degrees. And the measure of angle K is equal to 4 times 20, which is 80. And all three add up to 180 degrees. We have solved the problem. The next one says, we're looking at some side lengths this time. So the ratio of the measures of the sides is 6 to 7 to 9, and its perimeter is 77 centimeters. So for us to find the perimeter of a triangle, we'd have to add up the 3 sides. So in this case, our ratio, 6x plus 7x plus 9x has to equal the perimeter added together, 77. Then we would solve. 22x is equal to 77 and x is equal to 3.5. Again, the problem said to find the side length, so you need to put x back in. So we'd have to take 6 times 3.5, which we would get 21 centimeters. Then 7 times 3.5, 24.5 centimeters. And then 9 times 3.5 is 31.5 centimeters. Those would be the side lengths. Make sure you put it back in. The U-tries, I am not going to do. Those are up to you. I will fill these out and post them on the PowerSchool Learning page as completed examples. Okay? All right. On to our next step. We've done this quite a bit already. A proportion and solving a proportion. A proportion is an equation that states two or more ratios have the same value. To solve them, we will cross multiply. So essentially, we have two fractions that are equal. We've cross multiplied numerous times in our solvings when we were doing sine, cosine, tangent. So these actually should be fairly straightforward. So our first one says 5 over 10 equals x over 12. Cross multiply. 10 times x is 10x equals 5 times 12. That is 60. Multiplied the two together, and then we'll solve for x by dividing by 10. X is equal to 6. So that one was pretty straightforward. Next one is a little bit tougher. Okay, a little bit tougher here. When I cross multiply here, we have to make sure that we distribute the x. Okay, we're taking x times x minus 5. So x is on the outside, x minus 5 we'll have to distribute equals 2 times 3, that is 6. When I distribute, x times x is x squared minus 5x equals 6. Okay? Now to solve this one, you won't see many of these on your homework. I'm probably going to try and avoid these for the most part, but it'll be a good little review. Since I have an x squared and an x, I have a quadratic. So I have to solve the quadratic. Set it equal to 0. X squared minus 5x, subtract the 6, minus 6 equals 0. Now I can factor it. Factors of the last term 6 that add up to negative 5. It's a negative, so our signs are different. So x minus 6 times x plus 1 equals 0. Negative 6 plus 1 is equal to our middle term of negative 5. Our two solutions, x equals 6, because that makes it 0, and x equals negative 1. Like I said, I'm going to try and avoid giving you those for the most part. We aren't going to be solving too many quadratics. Next example, number 3. Again, make sure that we distribute, because there's two terms. So we have to take 2 times x minus 2 equals 4 times x plus 4. Distribute. 2x minus 4 equals 4x plus 16. And then we'll round up our like terms. I'm going to subtract 2x from both sides and get 2x. Subtract the 16 equals negative 20. Divide by 2 and x is equal to negative 10. Again, I will leave the U-tries blank. And if you want to take a look at those, you can on PowerSchool Learning. A couple key points here as you work through this. Just make sure that you are willing to take out a piece of paper and solve these on your assignments. Don't just try and look at it to figure out the answer. You're actually going to have to write these down. And that is all we have for today. We'll be working on writing and solving proportions tomorrow. Have a good one.